This isn't just about not drinking and drugging. This is about growing a spiritual life that you could be so proud of. My job is for people that are struggling, maintaining their little square, is to help. No matter if it's AA, it doesn't matter if it's Kensington, North Philly, West Philly, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter if they speak English, don't speak English, doesn't matter. None of it matters to me. I'm going to continue to put myself out there until I die, because that's how I feed my soul. That's what I learned in AA. You have to feed your soul.
Welcome to the Daily Reflection Podcast, a podcast where we provide inspiration through interviews with members of the recovery community. Today is January 21st, and we've got a special guest, Rick C. from Philadelphia. I want to warn you, Rick keeps it real, and at times uses language that may not be appropriate for younger listeners. He's got a powerful story, and he's been a major part of my recovery since I got sober. I really hope you enjoy the episode. Rick, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Mike.
It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, brother.
Rick, would you help us get things started by reading the Daily Reflection for January 21st?
Yes. The title is Serving My Brother. The member talks to the newcomer not in a spirit of power, but in a spirit of humility and weakness. Alcoholics Anonymous comes of age, page 279. As the days pass in AA, I ask God to guide my thoughts and the words that I speak. In this labor of continuous participation in the fellowship, I have numerous opportunities to speak. So I frequently ask God to help me watch over my thoughts and my words, that they may be the true and proper reflection of our program. To focus my aspirations once again to seek His guidance, to help me be truly kind and loving, helpful and healing, yet always filled with humility and free from any trace of arrogance. Today, I may very well have to deal with disagreeable attitudes and utterances, the typical stock and trade attitude of the still suffering alcoholic. If this should happen, I will take a moment to center myself in God, so that I will be able to respond from a perspective of composure, strength, and sensibility.
So, Rick, it's a special day. Is that why you chose this daily reflection?
The reason I chose this is because since I've been coming to AA, since my first meeting, probably my second day, I think I went to my first AA meeting on a Sunday right out of the Karen Foundation at Chit Chat. And that Monday, I think I went to Sunrise Semester, which became my home group. And these people just, I don't know how, because I was not nice, took a shine to me and asked me to start doing things. You're like, clean ashtrays, make coffee, help us put the chairs away. And my response was always the same. Go fuck yourselves. I ain't doing anything. I mean, it's always the same. So once they worked me over and like I would say, I don't smoke, clean your own ashtray. I don't drink coffee, make your own coffee. I was a real idiot. And I had real anger problems and a black soul. So once I gave into that really slow service call, things started to change. Doing something for other people and not knowing why I was doing it, just doing it because someone asked me to, and saying, oh, sure, no problem, has made my life so bountiful, so abundant and rich, because I've been doing it just about every day since I walked in the door, and not making coffee, not, it's the new guy's job now. Now it's more like helping people get through the steps, and actually it's even more bigger, Mike. It's bigger because now I am active in the community of Philadelphia, the city of Philadelphia, in various communities in service. Like it's, I brought it further out.
When you first get sober, there's got to be a level of desperation in order for you to feel like you have to do these things. What caused that level of desperation for you?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I wasn't quite sure I was an alcoholic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was almost certain I was a drug addict. I was doing 50 pills a day. Like I was an animal. Meth was my favorite drug, and I was getting high every day. So I didn't believe I was an alcoholic, but I'm going to AA. And I wasn't really quite sure that I was a drug addict, or even if I fit. But once I started I don't know if it was desperation or, you hear a lot of people talk about the gift of desperation revolving around Their sobriety, I would say that I was so broken that I was willing to do anything. I don't know if that's the definition of desperation, but no, it was more like I did whatever I wanted for it as long as I wanted until I got to AA. When I got to AA, I knew I had to do something other than whatever I felt like doing. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up with the thought of I'm going to get mine, destructive entitlement. If there's a God, he never gave me nothing. I'm going to take whatever I want. And I get to AA, and they're asking me to 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 do silly little things, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like AA's voluntary. It's not like I had to go there. I didn't have to go there, and I would go there every day. Right? It's not like it was a sentence. You know, it wasn't like I was doing a stint. I was there, but I am glad I was there doing that little bit of service and sharing at every meeting, which is also the greatest form of service in AA, is show up, get your hand up, and help somebody through either inspiration or your experience or through your strength or through a cross share that comes sideways that they don't know is coming. You know, there's a lot of different ways to do service, but it started with anybody with long-term sobriety would tell you it started with a pot of coffee. It's weird. It's just bizarre. I don't know. You use the word desperation. I don't know if that's the definition of it. It's really, I didn't know how to live. I didn't know how to make coffee. I had to learn how to make it. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty basic, right? It's very basic. You make coffee, you put water on, put some instant shit in the cup. It's like what? Yeah, I was not that person, bro. I was not that man.
But in order for you to do these things, you had to feel some kind of pain, right?
Well, I knew I had no idea what emotional well-being was because the only emotion I had was rage that was anger, and it was only pushed to the side when I was rageful. So I knew that I had to get some type of humility, some type of humility. And if taking direction from a total stranger who I sometimes didn't like was going to teach me a lesson about humility, I would do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Does that answer that question? I'm not sure if I'd answer that. I'm evasive, Mike. You got to really, that I'll move the ball. I will move the ball.
It's all good. So, how long after you started to come to meetings did you start to feel some relief?
I felt relief the first meeting. I went to a meeting. It was called South Street Bar None. At the time, it met in a yoga room. This is first meeting, right? This is 37 days after January 21st, 1987. 37 days I was away. I went to my first meeting in a little yoga room on South Street where people were sitting on the floors on pillows. The room was a square. The perimeter was full. The interior perimeter was full. The interior of that interior was full. And I walked in a room late and sat right in the middle of the floor. And they were already talking. I don't know what to expect. And somewhere along the line, I start talking. Maybe I got picked. Maybe I raised my hand. Maybe I related to the topic, but I got picked, and I had a major breakdown right in the middle of that room regarding being afraid. And I was crying my eyes out like a little baby. I was 26. I was crying my eyes out. And after that meeting, and before we left that room, so many people touched me, physically touched me. And I had been touched by anybody for many years. I was so rageful. I was a criminal. And they told me it was okay. It's okay. You belong here. Don't let anybody else tell you don't belong here. You belong here. And that kind of was like the beginning, like of this journey. I talk about it all the time. The gentle touch of a stranger can move a life forward. And it happened. The very first meeting it happened. I related. I knew I was in the right place.
And you kept going.
Yeah, man. I go now more than I went. Like you hit platforms. You hit. You set goals. My goal was 90 days. Then it was a year, and I got my year. And my sponsor kept me real close. And then I got through the fourth step at a year and a half. Then I went to college. Then I went to law school. Well, then I got married. Then I went to law school. Then I had a kid. So every now and then between college and law school and working full time, AA lost its priority, but I've always found my way back to a 7:15 a.m. meeting because nothing happens in the real world at 7:15 unless you're like a union worker, and I wasn't a union guy, but I was a restaurant worker. So I would go to 7:15 every day. It started at sunrise, was only 3 days a week. Then it was 4 days. Then it was 5 days. Then it was 7 days. Now it's 7 days. And I didn't go all 7 days. I go to other places. I just go to meetings because I like them now, and I look to help other people. I look to help other people learn how to stay sober. There's really no magic to it. I went through the steps. I had a spiritual awakening as a result of all 12 steps. And my job, my duty, because my life is so magnificent, is to show other people how to get that if they want it. And, a lot of people don't want what I have. I sponsor people who want what I have. Happy marriage, healthy kids, the ability to share honestly right where you are when you're struggling. People want that stuff. Some of them even want to learn how to share my anger. They appreciate my anger because they don't even know how to express anger. I've gotten thank yous for that over the years. Sharing is the most important part. Sharing is basically either a cry for help or, but if you've ever seen it, some people just like to hear themselves talk. I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? Those people are so annoying. Like sometimes I'm glad there's Zoom because I'll mute them. I go to meetings to share honestly exactly where I am. Exactly where I am. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is. I shared at an anniversary meeting when I was 20 years sober and my life was miserable. And I shared it at an anniversary meeting and an old timer told me, you were supposed to tell a happy story. This is an anniversary. I was like, fuck you. This is just where I am. I'm not looking to make friends here. I'm just telling you what it's like, right now, right this minute. I'm sober, 20 years sober. Don't mean life stops happening, Yeah.
What do you tell folks that are experiencing real trouble in their life, real pain, and they're trying to get sober?
Yeah. Real pain. A lot of alcoholics. Well, first you got to find out if the person's an alcoholic or a problem drinker, or no one can. If the person comes to me and tells me I think I'm an alcoholic, I'm not really sure, but I'm an alcoholic. I think I might be an alcoholic. Then I say, well, why don't you go to meetings like as long as you feel like you can? Why don't you try to do 90 meetings in 90 days? And if you miss a meeting, then you stop and start over again and do 90 meetings in 90 days. And after 90 days, if you feel like you don't belong here, then leave. No one's going to hold you to it. But if you find that there's another way of life, one that you've never tried, one that you never thought could help you after you've tried everything, after you try drinking dark liquor and white liquor and fucking doing meth and not doing meth and not smoking crack and just doing a little blow, or just maybe not shooting a dope, but just snorting it, or maybe not smoking the whole. Listen, how many times, if you've tried and you have no off button, you probably belong here. If you substitute the player, let's not even drink and drug, and we'll just substitute women, gambling, right? Sex and gambling. I shouldn't say women. Sex and gambling. It doesn't have to be women or men. When I was drinking and drugs, it didn't really matter who was on the other side of the receiving of it, but it was really about trying to fill the hole in my soul that was impossible to fill with booze, drugs, sex, and gambling. And AA could help you fill the hole in the soul. I'm still working on it, Mike. Listen, I may have 34 years, but I'm still working on the hole in the soul. It's got a lot smaller, right? It's probably the size of like a 9/16 wing nut. You know what I mean? That hole. But when I came in, it was a gaping hole, and everything was outside of my grasp. Now I could attain anything because I have a really wonderful spiritual foundation in this program. You come in expecting one thing, and you get sober. You get that you'll expect that, but when your life becomes manageable for chunks of time, there's just, that's kind of what I tell. I don't know. Every person is different. What's your twist?
I related to what you said there. You mentioned that all the different things, like we, as alcoholics and addicts, we substitute, right? Do you still do that today, you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Amazon thinks I'm an addict. I'm pretty sure. right now. Amazon thinks I'm an addict. UPS, United States Postal Service, USPS, UPS, FedEx, Amazon. I'm pretty sure they know I'm an addict because but I don't necessarily buy stuff to fill the hole in my soul anymore. I buy stuff because I can afford it. But when I was buying, I can remember very vividly buying a suit knowing that when I wore it, I would feel better about myself. It was really about reaching for things that made me feel better about myself, things outside of me that make me feel better, whatever it is. Porn, back, it used to be women. It used to be women while I was married and sober. It used to be, anything to get me to feel better about myself, I would do, except drink and drug. Do I do it as much? Do I chase it? No. Women, definitely not. Gambling, I do. It's almost like a distraction, but I still know it's an escape. I know that, but I don't spend money I don't have. That's just ridiculous, right? Booze and drugs, forget about. Shopping, I can afford whatever I want really in life, but so I don't use that really as an escape. But I see it all the time. But yeah, I mean, that substitute, not as much. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. Everybody's substituting something. I used to substitute cigars, but now it's just a full blown addiction that I tend to. It actually takes me to more meetings, because I can smoke a cigar on the way to the meeting. Listen, bottom line is don't drink. You do whatever you want until you feel the same guilt, shame, or remorse you did when you drank, and then you'll stop doing it. But just do it. Enjoy it. Take it as long as you want. Do whatever you want to do. Just don't drink and drug. And when the pain gets too great, you'll change. You'll change your behavior.
So what part does spirituality play in your program today?
There's spirituality and spiritual acts. And then there's a belief in God, right? So I don't think you need to believe in God to be spiritual. I don't think they're connected. I think that my spiritual program is directly linked to helping other people. And it used to be just people in a program. Now it's helping as many people as I can, doing whatever it is that, making peanut butter or jelly sandwiches, take them to Kensington Beach, do some of that, buying Christmas presents with the help of AA people and distributing them amongst families for their children at Christmas, buying turkeys for Thanksgiving because I can afford to buy turkeys and they're not expensive. I don't do things. I do things because I was raised dirt poor on food stamps and welfare by a single mom with no child support with 3 sons. I do things because it's the right thing to do when someone is less fortunate than you. When someone has that same broken feeling that there's no one going to help me out of this, or no one there for a Christmas present, or no one's going to help me get dinner, no one to rely on. I try to be the person people can rely on, right? It's like the role, I think it's more of a role like a shepherd. As I tell people, you talk to people. Our most valuable asset, and I've told you this many times, is our time, because the only thing certain we know is our time's going to run out and we're going to die. So if I could spend 5 minutes with a stranger over a cup of coffee, or 15, 20 minutes with someone who needs help, I don't think people realize how powerful that is. I don't think people realize how, and I say this a lot also, getting in an elevator and holding the door open and saying good morning to someone, how powerful that is. Like, stuff like this is ingrained in me by people that came before me, that did it for me, that showed me that this isn't just about not drinking and drugging. This is about growing a spiritual life that you could be so proud of. And, I tell my wife all the time, I said, when I die, I don't want one of those boring Catholic things. I want you to blow up my face, drop it from like a big screen, and roast me. I want to roast. I want people to say, "Oh, he was so crazy. Remember that time we were up in Kensington, like with the turkeys? Remember it? He was so nuts." Like, listen, I do it to really rally the troops too. A lot of it has to do with rallying the troops, and AA people are just waiting for opportunities to show up for other people. Because a lot of us have been let down, right? A lot of us have been let down by people. Staying sober will allow me the ability to show up for poor single moms. And that's my mission.
I'm curious, why do you do all of this?
Yeah. I think the number one disease in America is not alcoholism, heart disease, diabetes. The number one disease in America, and in probably many countries in the world that I'm not familiar with, the number one disease is poverty. And as a kid, we were raised so poor. Single mom, no father, no child support, three boys, and a mom that was sick as a dog with heart disease and eventually died of cancer when I was 17. And we had nothing. We had a shag rug over her sofa. We had a bathroom that was falling off into the backyard. We had a tub that had tiles missing everywhere. I had to sleep in a bed next to my mother's bed in a twin-sized children's bed where my feet hung over the ends. This isn't about just staying sober for me. This is about, for me, changing my life first and then changing other people's lives. Just being an impact, whether it be someone in a program, whether it be somebody on the street, whether, I had a real problem with this for a long time in AA. I judged people so harshly. What are you talking about? What do you know about being without? You had two parents who loved you. Fuck out of here. Shut up. I used to judge people that had a healthy upbringing. What are you doing? What are you kidding me? Because I think I would have never turned out to be the piece of shit I turned out to be if I had a loving mother and father. Oh, and my father was abusive, and he left, and he beat the shit out of my mother, and my mother died. That was my story, and that I had to change the story. The story now is my father did the best he could, and he brought me into this world, and my mother died because she was sick. She didn't die because she abandoned me like he did. It was. I had to somehow get a piece of forgiveness and stop judging so harshly other people that I believed that were either dumber than me or less fortunate than me, or how do you weigh 350 pounds? I would look at people and just think things that were totally like mean. And I stopped. I can't say I 100% stopped, but I worked on judgment for a while through the steps, in the program, in the rooms, with a sponsor. And I got to be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I don't do it as much as I did. I do it hardly at all because I think everybody has a square. My job is for people that are struggling maintaining their little square is to help. Don't matter if it's AA, it doesn't matter if it's Kensington, North Philly, West Philly, it doesn't matter if they're black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter if they speak English, don't speak English, doesn't matter. None of it matters to me. I'm going to continue to put myself out there until I die because that's how I feed my soul. That's what I learned in AA. You have to feed your soul. It's either I'm feeding my soul or my addiction is doing Rocky push-ups on the steps waiting to pick me to fuck off because it still wants me dead. It still wants me dead. That part I know. Or at least it wants me to withdraw from society, which is what it would do.
You ever feel tempted?
Yeah. What are you kidding me? All the time. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Of course. Tempted is, listen, I sit with the same five guys for 20 years smoking cigars at Monday Night Football during football season. Two of us are sober. One's sober 25, 26 years. I'm 34, almost 34 years. And we're doing this for the last 15 years. Two of them drink a case of beer between them and probably start drinking bourbon somewhere around the third quarter, right? We all smoke cigars. That's really the reason we hang out. Plus, we love each other. Do I look at that bourbon and say, boy, it's freezing out. Wouldn't that be nice? You're goddamn right it would be nice. It'd be phenomenal. The first one would be good. Maybe the second one would be good. But I have never heard anybody come back after a relapse saying they had a really good time. And when I hear that, maybe it makes it a little bit easier for me to have a drink. But it ain't easy to have a drink when you've been around for a while. That's a real, it's a temptation that I'm not willing to take because most people don't make it back or they die, right? The ones that come back say, well, that was fucking awful. It was good for about a minute. That's about how long it'll be good. I was a fifth a day drinker and I wouldn't even get drunk. Come on. I would die quick, or I would live, which would be even worse. That would be worse. I called a number, Mike. I'm living to be 104. I'm 60. I got 44 more years. If I was to drink during those 44 more years, I would very shortly after probably die. I got heart disease, type 1 diabetes, fucking booze. My body can't sustain alcohol. Does that make sense?
It does. So you've been sober a long time, Rick. One of the difficult things I hear from people that have long-term sobriety is losing, members of the fellowship. Have you experienced that?
Oh shit, brother. I've been around so long. I've watched more people die of old age because they were around. It was really cool. It's really cool. That's how you get long-term sobriety. Just stay alive. You know. Yeah. I mean, Alex had. He died. He was just about to have 50 years, like 2 days before his 50th anniversary. You know, those people changed lives, man. I'd be dead without the people that came before me. There's no doubt. They 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 really they made me a man. They helped me become a man of honor. You know, I give them all the credit. Even my first sponsor, Philip, who used shortly after my first year and died. I give him a lot of credit for loving me. You know, I was not an easy person to love. I wanted none of that. So yeah, I think that there's still a lot of long timers. You know, they're not. I think the long timers now are not old. Even one of my friends, Jay, has 37 years. He's 62. He's 60 years. He's 60 years old. He's 60 also, and he has 37 years. He's got more time than me, and he's young. He's 60. You know, people are living longer. You know, that's why I'm calling 104 at the year. I'm going to die with 74 years, 75 years sober. That's the goal. Why is it people get one DUI and never have another drink again? This seriously disturbs my brain to think about. Now, back in the day, we didn't get DUIs. Back in the day, we got driven home, we got slowed down, kid. You know, that kind of. No one ever indicated that if you got a DUI, you might be an alcoholic. But I got clearly the law has changed, and people are getting sober behind one DUI, and they come to AA, and it begins to change their whole life. Yeah, it's different. You can't just put a toe in this program. You can't just, if you make it down to an AA meeting or walk into an AA room, 98% chance you got a problem with drugs and alcohol. 98. You didn't just get there because you just happened to think, well, let me just check it out. No one checks it out. I've only known one guy who said he came in to get out of the rain. Right? And he died with 46 years of sobriety. You know, and he was a legend. You know, Jim the Human Being was a legend. You know, I came in because it wasn't working no more. I couldn't get drunk. I couldn't get high. I do massive amounts of alcohol and drugs, and I could not move off the feeling of self-hatred. Couldn't do it. You got to jump in. You got to jump in, and then someone's going to give you their phone number. You got to fucking call them. And then you got to do what they suggest you to do. And then you got to talk. Since the beginning. It used to be the hamster wheel when someone's talking. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I got none of that no more. No, I'm just. You got to talk about where you are. If you're in pain, talk about it. Someone else in the room is also in pain, or has been through your pain, or has touched your pain, or will help you with your pain. But if you sit with it, you can get really sick in AA. You got to be in. Yeah. How it works was written for a reason. It's how it works for all of us. It's not how it works for Rick and Mike, and not for Abdul. It works for all of us. All you got to do is follow the script, and no one does it perfect. Rarely have we seen a perfect a person who. Well, what is it? Many of us exclaim, "What an order!" I can't go through with it, but no one's been able to maintain perfect adherence to these principles. We're not saints. We're shepherds. Saints are floating. We're on a rock. Shepherds, man. Shepherds telling stories. Some of them are and you know what the best part about AA is? You hear tragic comedy in AA, and you'll hear somebody share exactly what you went through, and you'll go like, "Oh, I thought." You feel a sense of relief immediately because you think you're all alone with your secret. No one's done anything someone else hasn't done in AA. Nobody's unique.
I want to thank you for spending time with me and sharing your experience, strength, and hope. Any last words for folks listening in?
You know, I honestly got to tell you that I don't know what real humility means. I have to tell you that. I honestly don't. I'm not searching for it. I'm not sober this long because of it. There's the person that I guess the entity or the person, it's a person that I believed in the most was Jesus Christ, right? Because I believe there's evidence of him. And I believe he walked among people and helped people, and I think he did it with no expectation of anything in return, like I've been taught. If I could do that my whole life, since I walked in AA, which was hard, if I could die walking in those types of shoes, then this has been a life worth living, I guess. A tremendous life. The riches are spiritual. Yeah, that's about it. That's it. I'm gonna leave it there. How about that? That's a nice English person's way to end the conversation. I think I'll leave it there.
Thanks so much for listening. If you want to join us online, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/dailyreflectionpodcast. We'd love to see you there, chat with you. If you want to read about recovery, we're publishing articles. You can find our blog at blog.dailyreflectionpodcast.com. Would love to get a comment or a rating. Those will help us get the word out about the podcast. You can support the podcast. We've got a PayPal account. It's paypal.me/dailyreflection. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.